All right, we are live. Welcome to this webinar, everybody. Today is Thursday, March 12th, and we are really excited to be talking about Outbound Voice AI. Let me just blur my background here. Sorry, we're working with a new webinar platform, so bear with us as we kind of learn the ropes here. Here we go. Okay. Welcome, everybody. We're super excited to have you here today. As you know, we are talking about our latest and greatest feature, and that is Outbound Voice AI. I'm going to give you guys a minute or two to trickle in. If you have been to these webinars before, you are familiar with the drill. I love to have you guys chat in with your name, your company that you work for, and your role, as well as your industry, because we serve a large range of industries in the service business niche, I guess you could say, or vertical. And it's just good to know who we're talking to. So go ahead and put it in the chat. This is a newer platform than we've used in the past. So on the right-hand side, you're going to see a chat window, and you will see a public chat tab, and you can put your name and your company in as well. So I see Brittany here from Brittany, you do inside sales with Candidates. Let me know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'll read out a few of these. I won't read all of them out, but it's really great to see everybody's kind of chatting in here. We've got Rachel, Robert, Carrie, Rick, Jen, AJ. Really excited to have you guys all here today. And we've got a group here of Hatchians, as we like to call them. So I'm going to take a minute to introduce us. I'll tell you guys a little bit about Hatch, and then I'll share the agenda, and then we will dive in. So my name is Kristen. I have been with Hatch for about 3 years now. I am you've probably seen me on these webinars, pretty heavily involved in the content that we create and some of the events that we run. So really excited to be sharing with you guys Voice AI today. I will pop over to you, Stephen. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, I'm Stephen. I'm on our marketing team as well. I do product marketing here at Hatch. Been here about 6 months. I will be in the chat during this webinar answering any of your questions and making sure that we also address it at the end of the webinar. So any questions that you have during the webinar, feel free to put it in the chat, and I'll make sure that we get those answered.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen.
Hop over to Charlie.
Hi there. My name is Charlie Laswell. I worked on the Outbound Voice AI feature. I'm a product manager here at Hatch. I've been here for a little while. You might recognize me from the Calling in Campaigns webinar. That's the last one of these that I did. But I'll hand it off to Chris Wren, who's our AI expert.
Well, I don't know if I would call myself like an expert, but thank you for that, Charlie. I'm also on the product team. My name is Chris Wren. I particularly work on the broader AI agents platform. So the kind of fundamental platform that's already been driving a lot of great automation and calls on the inbound side. A lot of that infra is being reused on the outbound side, although Charlie is the spearhead of like getting outbound live. Yeah, really excited to be here and talk about also improvements and updates on the broader AI side.
Yeah, thank you guys all for hanging out with me today. Quick agenda. So we're primarily going to focus on outbound voice. And then we are also going to spend a little bit of time at the end. We've made some enhancements to our ServiceTitan scheduling capabilities. So for those of you who do use ServiceTitan, you may know that our AI does connect to the ServiceTitan calendar. So we've just made some enhancements there, primarily in grouping together those features into an easier UI. So we're excited to share those. But first and foremost, we are going to talk about Outbound Voice AI. Before we do that, I'm just going to hop over one more slide. We do have a mix on the call today of both customers and non-customers. So for those of you who are new to Hatch or don't know what Hatch is, I'm going to give you a quick refresher. So Hatch is an AI CSR platform that helps you to scale your revenue engine. What do I mean by revenue engine? Revenue engine meaning your one-to-one communication across the customer journey. So journey here is key, right? Hatch is very well known and very commonly known for speed to lead, but that is just one layer in your funnel. We help you to scale best practice communication across the entire customer journey. So that will include speed to lead, estimate follow-up, production, scheduling, confirmations, updates, post-production. How did your installation go? Review requests, and then reaching out to customers after, like if you want to re-engage past customers, if you want to re-engage members, talk about recurring services, or even aged leads that never converted. How do we do that? We do that with AI CSRs that work across voice, SMS, and email alongside humans. So the way I like to think about it is humans architect the journey, AI scales that, and then humans can step in to refine, monitor, and handle nuance and escalations. And then the goal of this setup, higher conversion and lower overhead. So the goal is to increase conversion without having to drive up the costs that would typically be required for increasing conversion. So that might be in the form of time, labor, tools. But at the same time, if we're increasing efficiency, we don't want to do that at the cost of the customer experience, because that is the core of what drives conversion in the first place. So really, there's 3 core buckets. It's increasing revenue and conversion while also increasing efficiency and the customer experience. And then last but not least, turning that into repeatable processes so you can scale these playbooks across teams, across departments, across the customer journey, across brands, without having to increase operational complexity. We know that the customer journey, especially for home service businesses or home improvement businesses, is super complex. There's a lot of different use cases. So that is sort of Hatch in a nutshell. Without further ado, I am going to segue over to you, Charlie. Let me turn off my slides here. Bear with me as I get familiar with this. Oh yeah, I have to click on this thing. Wait a minute. Hubble, are you on the call here? I'm just trying to figure out how do I can see my screen, but I can't see how to disable my sharing here. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Awesome. Thanks, guys, for bearing with me, getting used to this new platform. Charlie, a nice little segue is, Charlie mentioned in the call or earlier in the call that he was on a webinar for outbound calling. And so we, for a little bit of background, with historic Hatch, you've been able to create campaigns based on triggers. So that trigger might be a new lead coming in, or it might be a condition in your CRM where you want to follow up on an estimate. And these campaigns have included multi-touch outreach. And that has included SMS, email, and phone calling. So a while back, we incorporated human phone calling in where it could create a notification for you to make a call. But now with Outbound Voice, you can actually include an AI generated phone call into that campaign. So that's what Charlie's going to be talking about today. And I think one more thing, I feel like I'm going on and on before letting Charlie talk. For those of you who aren't aware, Hatch AI has also historically fallen into kind of 2 buckets. So we have had inbound voice AI, and that has been able to handle inbound calls for a wide variety of scenarios, because people can call into your business to schedule an appointment, to check in on a technician coming out, to cancel an appointment. It could be spam, it could be a vendor, it could be an applicant for a job. So Hatch Voice AI has been able to handle that. And Hatch SMS and email AI, as we talked about, has been able to handle those campaigns that are done with triggers. Now, Outbound Voice AI is where that comes in, where you can integrate that into your existing workflows. So without further ado, Charlie, I will now let you walk us through that.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll share my screen. Hopefully everyone will be able to see it. This is always a headache. All right, everyone can see this?
Yes.
Okay, amazing. So this is at a high level the way that what we're instructing the Outbound Voice AI bot to do. Basically, an Outbound Voice AI call is another step in your campaign. So you could have a campaign scheduled to send a text message followed by an Outbound Voice AI call. You could have an Outbound Voice AI call followed up with a text message that says, hey, sorry, we tried calling. If you prefer to talk over text, just text me here. So really, this is a multi-channel approach. But at a high level, this is what the bot is doing. The first thing the bot does is place the call. The call goes outbound to the contact that meets the criteria for your campaign. The bot then listens to determine whether a person's picked up or whether the phone call has gone to voicemail. Let's just talk about first the case where someone has picked up the phone. Someone picks up the phone, they say hello, and then there's a greeting message that is configured that's unique to every single call that is made through the campaign. So instead of just saying, hi, this is an automated call, we have the ability to use your existing snippets logic that anyone who's familiar with Hatch campaigns will know about to dynamically pull different content for the AI bot to say. So in this case, instead of Charlie in your campaign, it might say first name, for example. And it would be able to say, thanks for inquiring about a roofing job. Thanks for inquiring about window replacement, whatever type of job it is that you're calling the end contact about. You would say the greeting message, and then the conversation goes on from there. So the contact would provide more details about the job. They would be asked whatever qualification questions you want to have answered in the course of that conversation. Really, this part is the exact same as our existing inbound voice AI solution. It's all your same prompts, all the same knowledge tab. If anyone's set up an inbound voice AI bot, it all works exactly the same way. So that is the happy path where someone picks up the phone. In some of our beta tests with this, we find that close to about half of people tend to pick up phone calls from unfamiliar numbers. The other half maybe let it go to voicemail, maybe they're not available, whatever it is. But the fact that half of phone calls get through, I think, is a pretty positive number from our perspective. Okay, so that's the happy path. You have an AI conversation with somebody, you chat for a while, whatever happens in that conversation happens. But there's also the case where the phone call goes to voicemail, someone doesn't pick up the phone. We also have the ability to leave a custom voicemail. So you have real parity with a human outbound call operator who would leave the same voicemail over and over and over again, for example. No longer has to be the case. We leave a custom voicemail with whatever the same specifications are spelled out in the AI playground. So it'll be the same voice. If you have a particular voice that you're wedded to, it will sound exactly the same on the voicemail as it does on the call. So you really have a coworker basically who's leaving voicemails for you. The content of this voicemail can also be customized as well. So you can use snippet logic here to say, hi Charlie, sorry we missed you, give us a call back at so-and-so. And that's an additional feature. If you prefer not to leave a voicemail, there is the option to just have the bot hang up the phone, live to fight another day, figure out that they're going to reach out in some other channel, figure that text messages, other ways of communicating with them in the campaign will reach out to them. It's really up to you whether you want to instruct the bot to leave a voicemail or not. Cool. So that's at a high level. I'm going to dive straight into the Hatch platform, and maybe some of this will be, if you're not familiar with Hatch, might be a little unfamiliar. Were there any questions on this flow just to start off?
There's quite a few questions, so we'll address those all at the end. So Stephen, you're doing a great job filling those questions, and we will read those out to you guys at the end and get them answered.
Okay, perfect. We'll carry on then. So I am now going over to my Hatch workspace here. You can see this is the Outbound Voice AI demo workspace that I'm working out of. But if I go to the AI agents playground, just taking a second to load because my Wi-Fi is bad. You can see I have a number of agents here. All of them are making outbound phone calls. But if you want to create a new AI agent, anyone who has access to Voice AI has access to this feature. It's a new type of bot, an outbound voice AI bot. And we have some existing templates there that you can build off of. So we have appointment confirmations, estimate follow-ups, speed to lead. All of these are separate scripts that you can build off of and gets you started pretty quickly. Two things I would call out here. The first one is that you'll notice that the templates are a lot shorter for outbound voice AI calls. This is because an outbound voice AI call is actually a lot simpler to make than an inbound voice AI call. Because as Kristen mentioned, people call in asking about job opportunities. They ask about a million different things. And usually our inbound voice AI scripts are designed to cover every single potential thing that somebody could call in about before somebody's happy enough. But with some of our outbound voice AI calls, there's a very clear goal in mind for the conversation, right? You're calling someone, you're asking about an appointment, you're asking about an estimate, whatever it is. the bot can really stay on task and make sure that the conversation doesn't go in other irrelevant directions. So I think it's actually a lot simpler to set up an outbound voice AI bot than an inbound voice AI bot. If you have set up an inbound voice AI bot, very easy to take all the knowledge and work that you did for that inbound bot and just translate it into the outbound bot. It's just a question of changing the prompt associated with it. The other thing that I'll highlight here is that these 3 use cases, appointment confirmations, estimate follow-ups, and speed to lead, are examples of things. I would describe them, we've described them in our documentation as operational use cases. So you have an existing relationship with a customer and you're using outbound voice AI to get in touch with them to continue that relationship. Maybe it's starting to get warmer. So you tell people who are members of your membership program that they're entitled to a new free AC tune-up, whatever it is. It should be something where there's an operational relationship with the end customer. What is more tightly regulated is pure telemarketing calls. So I would recommend, and this is not legal advice, but there's very tight compliance standards at the federal level about the ability to make outbound automated telemarketing calls is very tightly regulated. So if your dream is to use outbound voice AI to call a bunch of old leads from the early 2000s, phone numbers that are just sitting around, just start cold calling anyone who you can see in the phone book. These are not good use cases for outbound voice AI. Typically, we're trying to take out the repetitive operational calls that Hatch customers have to do on a day-to-day basis and make that a lot easier for them. So that I'm sure we'll have plenty of questions, but for the most part, it's for operational use cases rather than for pure telemarketing use cases. That's not to say that the bot can't ask qualifying questions, for example, in a speed to lead use case. It's not that we can't be or completely, can't use any promotional language whatsoever. But for the most part, it's for someone who's opted in to have an operational relationship with your business. So I'll leave that there for now. But when we go in here, we're going to do this bot, Connie, which is an appointment confirmation bot. It's pretty straightforward. So it tells, all we're trying to do here is ask whether the customer is going to be present for a scheduled appointment at a given time. If they confirm that they will be, we'll thank them for their time and put it in the success column. If someone says that they need to reschedule, we can transfer that call directly to a human representative. So this, even if you wanted to have a human manage your rescheduling, for example, you'd be able to transfer the outbound call from your Hatch AI bot over to a human operator who would be waiting on the other end to handle some of the harder stuff. So you've cut out a lot of the human work that's required there, right? All the voicemails, all the hangups, all the confirmed appointments, you get to do all of those automatically, and then humans are able to focus on higher leverage work. You can also, it's not necessary to transfer to a human. This is just an example of one of the use cases that I've heard from people that they're interested in doing. So this is the example that we're going to run with, appointment confirmations. So if we go back here, we have one contact named John Smith, who is not really named John Smith. This is just an example phone number. But if we look at the opportunity data associated with this contact, we have appointment date, appointment time, we have a first name associated. Everything that we know about this contact is something that the bot can use to say hi to them, make a personalized greeting to them so that they don't immediately hang up the phone, know that this is coming from a real business that they have a relationship with, et cetera, et cetera. You could have a job type, right? You can say, for roofing jobs, mention that it's a roofing job, ask some of the details of the job, et cetera, et cetera. So I know there's been a lot already, but the last thing that we have to configure here is what the greeting message is going to be. You can play around with different greeting message language in the AI playground, have a full conversation with your bot, and just assign them different greeting messages. But once you've figured out basically what you want that greeting message to be, you can go into the campaign editor. And the campaign editor is the last piece of our site that remains this hideous purple color, which is our old UI. But this is the example of the AI agent that we selected earlier, appointment confirmation bot. We know what it's going to do. It's, as soon as it gets to the greeting message, it knows that it's talking to a person. It's going to confirm whether they're going to be there for their appointment time or not going to be there. In the case that it's not there, it's going to transfer the call. So you can see that the bot is going to say whatever is here is going to fill in these snippet values. So for example, John Smith, it's going to say contact first name, so John. So it's going to say, hi, John. This is an automated call from our company name, so it'll be Hatch in this case. And then we have the ability to integrate details like an appointment date, an appointment time, etc. So this is our greeting message. We could change the time so that, hey, don't send it at launch. We could send it at 8 a.m. every day. Just fire out all of our appointment confirmation calls, for example, if we wanted to all at the same time. We could also, so the way that campaign status works here is that if someone picks up the phone, we're treating that as if someone responded to a text message. So they won't get subsequent steps in the campaign. So you could very easily send an SMS message 15 minutes after the phone call that says, hi, we tried calling. If you prefer to book online, go to our website and the booking site. And so people who pick up the phone won't receive the text message. People who don't pick up the phone will receive the text message. So you can see how the Outbound Voice AI step, it sort of performs in concert with all of your other communication channels. It works with emails, it works with SMS. All of this is kind of a multi-channel approach that you knock on every door that you can to get in touch with somebody. Okay, so hopefully that's clear so far. So we have this. If someone doesn't pick up the phone, it'll just hang up in the case of this bot, or they can leave a custom voicemail. Custom voicemail is the same thing. We can use all of our snippet values here, info about the contact, the fact that it's their first name to be used there, et cetera, et cetera. All of that is still the same. Okay, so we're gonna update this campaign. We'll discard these changes, we don't need to. Okay, so going back to our John Smith contact, we're going to edit this. I have a workflow set up. Go for anyone with an appointment. This is going to trigger an Outbound Voice AI call to this, which is my real phone number. Please do not call me. And once I save this, character all this phone number. See, I've been calling myself a little too often here. So we'll move this guy out of here. We'll go back to our John Smith contact that we've been working with. Charlie, appointment, 646, save, fire away. We go back here. The bot is calling me. I'm getting the inbound call to my phone. Hello. Hello. Can you hear this?
Hi, Charlie. This is an automated call from Hatch about your appointment on May 1st at 8:30 a.m. Is now a good time to talk?
It is a good time to talk.
Perfect, thanks. Will you be present for your scheduled appointment on May 1st at 8:30 a.m.?
I will be there.
Thank you for confirming your appointment. Have a great day. Goodbye.
So as you can see, I do a lot of calling of myself here, but the bot moved my contact card over to the confirmed column. We can also demonstrate that you can do a transfer directly into your Hatch workspace number. We can do phone transfers out into your external phone system, directly into your ServiceTitan number or into your call center number. The Voice AI bot is also capable of providing a warm handover in this process. So it will provide a summary of what happened on the first bot leg of the call so that a human operator is able to jump in with enough context, know what the context name is, etc. But yeah, for the most part, that's how this works. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of questions, so I think it might be the best use of time for us to chat through some of the questions now, if that makes sense for everybody.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I was seeing a ton of questions come through here. Stephen, if you want to keep, I know you're kind of answering some of them. if you want to keep doing that, I'll kind of start scamming. I'll start scamming everybody. I'm going to skim through from the top. And then I might hand it off to you to highlight some of the key questions, but I'll do that if that process works.
Cool. Sounds good to me.
Okay, let's do that. And then, it's 1:25, so maybe we'll take 10 minutes to do some questions. Then we'll let Chris Wren come in and talk about the calendar updates, and then we can always switch back to Outbound Voice. All right, cool. Charlie, we'll let you get a chance to catch your breath here. Thank you so much for that. That was super helpful. Okay, so I see a question here. Colleen wants to know, what if they pick up the phone but don't say anything?
So we have an automated, it'll repeat the greeting message. It'll try again and say, hey, we're calling from Hatch. Want to see if you want to get, whatever type of job it is. And it'll repeat itself. But there's a automatic timer so it's not going to stay on the phone for 10 minutes hoping for a response. If it senses that there's not a response, it's the same behavior as we have with inbound calls of if it's a spam call, it just marks it as spam and moves on.
Great. And if they have an AI answering service that requests you state your name and reason for calling, I'm assuming the AI can handle that and basically answer it.
The AI does handle it. It does pretty well. I think it's not going to be, so the 50% answer rate, I think, is partially because we've invested a lot of time at Hatch into positioning your Hatch workspace number with your best chance of success. So we disclose a lot of information about Hatch customers' data to the phone carriers so that the carriers know that this is a legit business calling someone for a legitimate reason. They send text messages, et cetera, et cetera. So the likelihood of something being marked as spam likely is much lower with your Hatch workspace number than sort of a number that just comes straight out of the box. So for the most part, there are features on phones that say, if this person isn't an existing contact, don't let them call me, which there's not a lot we can do. But for those phone screening things where it says, hi, please state your name and reason for calling, the bot is active as soon as the conversation starts. So it starts saying, hi, I am an automated assistant with Hatch. I'm here calling about an appointment confirmation. I think it's a pretty high success rate for getting through these call screening processes, but I think that there's so much variance between all of them that I can't say that it's an unbeatable system. But it is funny to have an AI talking to an AI.
Talking to an AI, yeah. I was watching a video the other day, and it was like, because when you turn it on like voice mode for ChatGPT, it's like the responses get a little bit more diluted. Like if you do transcription, that's one thing, but when you go to voice mode, they like keep their answers super general. So it was like one AI being like, so yeah, like if you want to, we'll just hang out and chill and that'll be great. And then the other AI was answering. It went back and forth about 20 times. Everybody just repeating the same thing over and over again. It was pretty entertaining. Anyway, I digress. Okay, some of these may have already been answered in your demo, but I want to repeat them just because a lot of helpful information, but it would be great to reinforce this. Can the AI automatically attempt multiple follow-ups if the homeowner doesn't answer the first call? Example, cadence: call immediately, call again in 10 minutes, call later that evening, next day follow-up.
Yeah, I would say best practices, just because people get kind of annoyed sometimes, is not to have too many call follow-ups. Maybe space them out a little bit more, put a couple hours in between. Maybe, some of our templates have best practices for this with SMS. So none of our templates say text them 5 times immediately. All of them say have a drip. Sometimes people are ready to answer an SMS. Sometimes they're not. I think it's the same thing with calls. Would be our suggestion would be not to barrage people with calls. And that also, makes it more likely that someone's going to, mark your phone number as spam, for example, and degrade your reputation with carriers. So for the most part, we say try to do best practices, stick to maybe 2 or 3 calls per campaign. But can you queue up 5 calls to go out per hour? You could do that with Hatch, yes.
Yeah. And, the example that Charlie did in his demo was like, call and then maybe follow up with a text, right? Because some people prefer call, some people prefer text. They're not going to pick up a call, but maybe they're at work and they can text you back. So great answer. Let's see. This one's a pretty good one. What are people's overall opinion on answering the phone and it being an AI bot?
I think that's part of the reason we recommend operational use cases as well, because if someone's expecting, if they've filed requested a quote, filed a web form, added their information to Angie, all those types of use cases, they're hoping to get a phone call from somebody who's going to solve whatever their home services problem is, right? So in those cases, people are very happy. They say, okay, I'll talk to the AI. If, on the other hand, if you're trying to blast old leads from years and years ago, people don't love having their day interrupted to talk about whether they need their shutters looked at, whatever it is, again. So I think that just from a marketing effectiveness perspective, I would say that the operational use case makes a ton of sense. Are there instances where we've seen calls where people have been frustrated with the fact that it's an AI? I would say yes. But you can also prompt each one of your bots so that if someone gets frustrated or wants to speak to a human, you can immediately transfer them to one of your active phone lines, right? So if someone would be able to make a sale as long as they were speaking to a human instead of an AI, in all those cases, hopefully you could capture all of those instances and transfer them to human operators. So ideally, this tool just takes some of the repetitive work of leaving voicemails and doing the actual work of dialing, takes that out of the equation, and then lets you focus on the calls that are really higher leverage.
Yeah. And one thing I'll add too is even for inbound, like I think even in this greeting template, the AI introduces itself as an AI or a virtual assistant. And that tends to take the edge off for some people because like we all know for the most part, sometimes it's super, super real. Voice AI is getting better and better each day, but like you can tell that it's an AI. And that's okay. But like if the AI says right off the bat that it's an AI, that kind of softens it for customers and almost invites them to like try out that experience. So that can make a difference too.
That's also a compliance thing, actually. It is against federal regulations to make automated calls and pretend as though you're a human agent. Also, so we're at pains basically to make sure that use of this tool is compliant with all federal regulations. So one of those is that every single greeting message is required to have that disclosure hard coded into the beginning. It has to say automated, virtual, AI, whatever code word you want to use to make this disclosure. We kind of steer you in that direction using Hatch.
Yep, that's a great point. And you can also build in like when you upload information to your AI's brain, you can add in an FAQ. Are you an AI agent? Because people don't always listen right away, and you can add answers there too. Cool. Stephen, I know you've been fielding quite a few questions. Are there any particular ones that you want to surface? Because what we'll do is in this recap, we'll add every question and answer. We're not going to get to all of them, but Stephen, what are some that you would like to surface?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest questions, which you just addressed, Charlie, was compliance on if they have to say that it's an AI bot, which that is something that has to be said when it is an outbound call from an AI agent. Other questions we're getting quite common are, is there some sort of like test spot that they can play with or kind of test out before purchasing AI voice? And also, what does the pricing look like for that are kind of the most common questions we're seeing.
Yeah, definitely. I would say chat to your account manager about getting set up with all of these things. The pricing, we haven't added, there's no additional platform fees associated with access to Outbound Voice AI. Anyone who has access to Inbound Voice AI has access to Outbound Voice AI. New customers, as we're onboarding them, have access to all of our Voice AI options, but there are some legacy customers who, some of them may be only doing SMS marketing using Hatch. So I don't want to speak for everybody in terms of like what they do and don't have access to. Your account manager will know and can get you set up with some examples. And another thing that we didn't cover in that whole monologue that I did was in the AI playground, you can play around and chat to the bot to your heart's content. So you can have as many example conversations as you want. You obviously don't want someone some AI going out there using your company's name without having a lot of confidence that it's not going to, say the wrong thing. So there's plenty of opportunity to play around with it. I have been training all the AMs so they know how to do this, so they can walk anyone through it. Okay, sorry, but there are no additional platform fees. If someone picks up the phone, it's considered a voice AI conversation the same way that a voice AI conversation would happen with inbound. So it's the same entitlement pool. It's nothing new there. We do have some additional fees associated with leaving custom voicemails and hang up attempts just to cover the expenses associated with those. But that's the only additional cost.
Cool.
Yeah. And if you are not a current Hatch user and you want to learn more about pricing and platform, we're going to launch a poll. I'll probably do that in a couple minutes. I'm doing that in a couple minutes so that you can raise your hand, and then we'll have somebody reach out to you and walk you through it. Another thing I wanted to clarify too is Charlie mentioned it's the AI playground. So for those of you who are not Hatch users, when you're setting up an agent, you can just click a button to test the call and get the conversation started right away. You don't have to make a call and wait for it to ring and pick up. That's a feature that people really enjoy.
I only did that because I want to prove to you that it can actually make outbound calls, but you don't have to do all of the contact editing stuff to demonstrate how it works.
I think one other common question that we're seeing quite a bit from people that maybe haven't been using Hatch yet is the integration with ServiceTitan. As a lot of people are on ServiceTitan, what is all the information that can be accessed either through outbound voice or kind of all of the different channels that Hatch supports?
Yeah, so our ServiceTitan integration is the one that we have the strongest relationship, I would say, the most developed one. We have the ability to book appointments. Chris Wren is here to talk more about what we're able to do with ServiceTitan, but we have access to we scrape all the data out of ServiceTitan. We're able to create audiences on the basis of that. If you want to target only people who requested an estimate on a Wednesday that rained in July, we can create audiences to whatever specifications you need. And then once a contact is actually on the phone, we can manage appointments from there, make new ones. There's bookings, there's actual appointments, there's all sorts of things that Chris Wren knows that I don't. But we have a very well-developed ServiceTitan integration. And if we do a transfer from an inbound phone call, if you want to transfer that over into your ServiceTitan integration, it'll pop up with the end customer's caller ID now. So you can know all the context about that customer before you speak to them.
Great. I think this is a great little transition point. So Chris Wren, I would love to hand it over to you to talk about some of these calendar and booking new features. Some of them are new. Some of them are what we have had. We just kind of created a new panel where you can see it all in one place. So Chris, I'll let you take it away and share what we got.
Awesome. Let me see if I can get the screen share going. 1 second.
Take your time.
Can folks see what's on my screen?
Let me just hit this button and I think we're good. Yep, we can see it now.
Okay, cool. Let me just give some context here, especially for folks who are maybe a little bit newer to the Hatch interface. So this is the same area that Charlie was kind of demoing. This is the Hatch AI Assistant Playground, where you can kind of tweak and prompt your actual AI bots. As Charlie was mentioning, there are different kinds of bots you can make, right? So if you decided to make an outbound phone bot or an inbound phone bot, all in the same place in terms of configuration. In here, I just wanted to give a couple of updates in terms of different experience things, as well as capability things we've added since the last time I've been on a webinar. Folks who are a actual active Hatch customer right now and actively using voice AI might already be familiar with the calendar command. It's one of the main tools you can give to the bot in order to do things like talk to a ServiceTitan CRM and calendar. I wanted to call out some of the extra features and usability improvements we've kind of made since I was last on the last webinar that I've been on. So main thing I want to call out first and foremost is that we have done a lot of work to make sure that we really, really give you as the actual business owner a lot of fine-grained control over the capabilities that the bot has when interacting with ServiceTitan. Previously, you mainly just added this calendar command, and some of these features would have been possible, like creating bookings and appointments. But now we are trying to roll out to you a lot more fine-grained ability to manipulate things in ServiceTitan and give permissions to the bot to do certain things. So obviously, there's the classic, like just create a booking and appointment based off of the customer requesting something. But there's also other features too that are more fine-grained that you can kind of turn on and off. There's things like double checking if, say, a customer already has an electrical appointment on the calendar, double checking with that customer if they're trying to book another one, that like they already have one on the calendar, and confirming whether or not they want to book a second one. There's things like allowing the customer to reschedule things if they want to. There's things like just letting a customer ask about the appointment information of a current appointment. This one is around just adding notes to the technician on my gate code is 1234. My dog is a little bit aggressive. There's alternate side parking when you arrive. Those kinds of notes to a technician. This would be like allowing a customer to cancel an actual appointment if they request to do that. And this one would be basically flipping on that an appointment is confirmed when a customer calls in. So a lot more fine-grained control, and a couple new things too, in order to make sure that when you set up your bot, your sort of AI CSR to handle both inbound and outbound calls, that you can be really, really precise about like what exactly you particularly want to allow the bot to do with your ServiceTitan instance. That's the first thing I want to call out. A couple other things. We did kind of try to revamp the UI, if you can see here, to try to make sure it's really, really clear what business units you're adding and what job types underneath those business units you're adding. The UI previously had a little bit like left to be desired in terms of like usability, but this is a lot more clear interface, especially for you to particularly like choose other job types for a business unit, and particularly to also like as you need to describe in a lot more detail to the bot, like exactly what each business unit and what each job type is for. All of this content that I've added here is stuff that the bot itself actually sees in its sort of playbook and instructions for responding to calls. So this can actually be really, really helpful for you to like specify a lot of the nuances of your business around like when it's a no heat job under this business unit, what does that really mean? What are the edge cases the bot should be thinking about? Things like that. I also did want to flag a feature that wasn't available last time I was on a webinar, which is around high priority booking. So right now with ServiceTitan, we will basically check the technician availability for the job type and business unit based on like what's being requested. But we have encountered with a lot of our customers that there's sometimes a lot of rules outside of just like the main availability that people would like considered. For example, for this electrical unit, let's say that I have a job type that's specifically for like emergency electricity issues. I can flag this as high priority. And essentially what that means is that I'm giving permission to the bot to basically book even when there's not necessarily availability, because this is a very high value, high priority kind of job that I want to get on the calendar. And I'm willing to like move around other job types to make room for it. Maybe it's like a higher ticket issue. Maybe it's like higher urgency or something that like you promise to members specifically. And so you want to really make sure that even if like officially there's no availability, you can tell the bot this higher level rule that it's okay. You can put that on the calendar still, and we can deal with rescheduling the other appointments that might be booking over. You've got a lot of customizability there on like how much lead time you want to give to yourself in terms of like how soon a high priority job can be booked. And also like when you're throwing something on the calendar, how large that calendar block should be. But yeah, that's like one example of like a higher level rule that we want to make sure that you have the ability to do with your ServiceTitan availability. Another thing too that a lot of folks find quite useful at higher levels of complexity is skills-based availability. Basically what this does is it considers the actual skills that are required for the job type and also the skills of your technicians. So let's say you've got electrical work that like an apprentice can handle, but you've also got like an emergency job type that only like a journeyman or like a master electrician can handle. In ServiceTitan, you can mark your electricians with those kinds of skills. And if you flip this on, we will basically be considering those skills when checking the availability of these things. So for example, like we'd only check in the case of this one, like journeyman or like master electrician level technicians availability only. We wouldn't like make it so that it would get assigned to some like super junior or apprentice level electrician who maybe couldn't handle this job type. Yes. So I think those are the main things I wanted to call out in terms of the deeper level, like control and capabilities that we're starting to add to the calendar so that when your bot's actually interacting with ServiceTitan on inbound and outbound calls, it can do a lot more advanced reasoning, and you can have a lot more control over the exact things you do and don't want the bot to do. So yeah, that was the main thing I wanted to go over.
Super helpful, Chris.
Yeah.
To sort of recap what you just said, and especially for those of you who are less familiar with Hatch, you know, what Chris is showing here is, as he just mentioned, you're kind of giving the bot advanced reasoning capabilities. And it's the same way that you would kind of train a human CSR. But as you can see, there's just different fields and blocks and modules because all that needs to be structured for AI to be able to think and do and make decisions consistently. And Chris, if you don't mind going out a step here on your screen share. Similarly, if you hit X on that and we just go to the 3 tabs. So similarly, if you go to the knowledge tab, so it's the same thing here, right? Like the business profile, if you click on Hatch Electric, hit, you know, so if you look at any of these, it sort of looks like a Google business profile, right? But this is just a way to structure information so that the AI can think clearly. I mean, the same way that a human has a lot of information, this structures it out for the AI. And similarly, we can create rules and workflows so that information also gets extracted out of a conversation and transferred downstream. So Charlie and Chris have both alluded to the fact that between your CRM, in this case, we've talked about ServiceTitan a lot, but between Hatch and your CRM, the goal is to have that bi-directional sync so that the information can flow and your CRM remains the source of truth. But you can also take information from different conversation and transcripts and send it through a Zap to another system or even to send email notifications. So I think that was a great way of just showing this, you know, this one command when you are creating an instruction in your script for your agent. That's the calendar command, and those are the capabilities there. Thank you so much, Chris. All right, we have a couple minutes left here. You know what I am going to do before I forget? I am going to launch this poll. So if you are, I'm going to hit start poll here. Okay, hopefully you guys should see this on your screen. You should see a little like notification bubble on the right side of your screen. This poll is designed for whether you are a Hatch customer or not a Hatch customer. If you want to learn more about Outbound Voice and you are a Hatch customer, obviously pick the first option. And maybe it's not exactly Outbound Voice that you want to learn about. Maybe there's something in your account that you've been meaning to reach out about. Maybe you're interested in inbound voice. Maybe you're not using any AI and you want to learn more about that. You can reach out, raise your hand for any and all things Hatch related. We'll make sure that your account manager reaches out to you and gets in touch. And then, of course, if you're not a Hatch customer and you want to learn more, you can pick the second option and we will reach out and find out what you want to know, walk you through a demo, answer all of your questions. So I'll leave that up for a second. Okay, we got about 10 minutes left. Let's see. I want to kind of go back to some of these questions here. I'm just trying to figure out, do I stop the poll? Can I keep the poll going? That's the question, guys. I'm going to keep the poll up, I think. Do you guys still see it on your screen? I don't know if Chris or even Steven, do you guys see the poll?
I don't on my side, but it might be because I'm a presenter.
Okay.
Hey, Kristen, it's Hubble. Yeah, they can see it on the right side on top of their chat, and they can also minimize it to
make perfect. Okay, cool. So I will remind you guys, I'll leave that poll up so that if you decide you want to raise your hand, it's there. Let's head back to a few of these questions here. You know, Charlie, you might, are you still on the call, Charlie? Can you speak? I know, this is it's a new feature. We have some people beta testing it. So it hasn't been fully, people aren't fully launched and using it across all accounts, but somebody did ask about like success rates. Is anybody using it for estimate follow-up? Can you speak about any of the successes people have been seeing so far?
Yeah, I mean, we do have. I listened back to a couple conversations involving estimate follow-ups where, the bot was able to handle a lot of a pretty interesting use case of handling specific objections because that was included in the script. So someone said, "I'm not willing to move forward with you," and then the bot responded, "Oh, okay, why not?" They said the price was too high, and then this actually wasn't in the instructions. The bot followed up and asked, "Well, what sort of range would we have to get to in order to meet your needs?" And I thought that was like such an interesting thing to add on there. So the conversation concluded, didn't get transferred to anyone, but then you have a record there of, okay, now I know that this customer is interested in X service at this price. I think that it's really down to how much you can prompt. Like um, any salesperson will tell you it's down to the quality of the lead, how successful you are. So if someone's really interested in a specific service, the bot's probably going to be able to convert it into into an appointment. I would say also, I think that the same logic with speed to lead for text applies for outbound voice AI, right? Of someone's much more likely to book an appointment with someone who's the first to call them as opposed to someone who drags their feet. Outbound voice AI means that you can send that call out basically instantly and be on that person's radar as quickly as possible. So I think your success rates are going to be different. We're working a lot now on conversation analytics. So at the conclusion of a call, calculating your bookable to booked rate, like all these sort of call center metrics, which we haven't done in the past, but we're adding these additional features. We're making this easier to see. And because of the nature of Hatch's prompting being so open-ended, if you want to handle a specific sales objection in a specific way, like you're able to prompt for it. So it's really all in the setup.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. Similarly with like our SMS templates, estimate follow-up can take a number of different forms. Some people like to say like, hey, my job is to follow up and make sure you had a great appointment. Treat it really as like a customer experience thing. And that helps people to provide feedback and raise objections and really like give them a chance to be heard. Other times it's a little more direct, following up to see if you had any questions on the quotes that we left. So we know that estimate follow-up conversations are probably a little bit more sensitive than, say, a speed to lead conversation or an appointment confirmation. So as Charlie mentioned, there's prompting, scripting. You might want to start with a lower sensitivity conversation, right? Like appointment confirmations are very operational. And the last thing I'll add too is that the process that we use in the same way that you would do with a human teammate is you show them how to handle a call, you give them the questions to ask, you test it, then you release them out into the wild and listen to their calls. And then if there's something that they said that was a little bit off, then you go in and you prompt, you adjust the prompting. So, and we're with you every step of the way on that. We've got templates and we can help you with that. All right, what else do we got here? We'll answer maybe a few more questions. One question, can the bot reference info communicated through SMS responses? So can your voice agent reference SMS context?
It's a great question. At the moment, it would involve, we need some data source. So what happens within a Hatch conversation can write into the contact record, but the more likely case I imagine would be an SMS conversation. A bot handles that conversation, books an appointment in ServiceTitan, and then we take that ServiceTitan appointment and can reference it into the voice AI piece of it. That tends to be how it would work. I'm interested in specifically what reference you would want to make, because the thing with the campaign also is that if someone responds to the SMS campaign, they won't get the subsequent voice AI step. So it would have to be a separate campaign, I guess, is what would happen. But if you have a specific thing you want to address, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. And as Charlie is saying here, like we've got systems set up so that you can have context right back to ServiceTitan, even in like the notes for call notes and things like that. So there's enough centralized information there for the agent to be able to reference. And then in that side panel that he showed earlier, Hatch, your AI agent has access to that information. There has been some questions about the webinar recording and the transcript. I think there was. We are going to send out the recording. I believe it's automatic, so the recording will go out, but we're also going to compile a blog post for you with the kind of like the TLDR. It'll be very detailed though. We'll do a little TLDR at the top, but then I always like to include all the questions and the answers because I know we covered a lot here. Okay, what else do we got here? Okay, let's see. What's the prompt or token window limit for configuring the voice AI, and are there best practices for structuring prompts so the agent stays focused during conversations? Couple questions here. I'll read it out and then we can break it down. Also, can we guide the AI to follow a specific sales style?
So on whether we can guide the AI to follow a specific sales style, absolutely. It's all configured inside the prompt. You can say, be extraordinarily aggressive with this contact if you wanted to. You can say whatever you want. You can select whichever voice that you want. Some people have different preferences in which ones they think feel the most natural over the phone. You can select female voice, male voice. We have a wide variety of things you can specify in terms of the whole sales experience, and you can play around with it in the playground and see what feels the best. Best practices for structuring prompts, I would say, for outbound, we find it pretty simple. Like they know their role. You spell out what their role in the call is, right? You have to remind them that you initiated this call to this person for this reason. And I throw in a little bullet at the end that says, if the conversation starts to veer off course, try to bring it back to the appointment. But for the most part, people either want to talk about making an appointment or they want to hang up the phone. Those tend to be the two things that happen. So it doesn't tend to go off the rails.
They're not wanting to talk about it. And I will say, as you can all attest to this, the AI, like you're giving it a set of instructions. It's not like the AI is like distracted by other things in the world. Like it knows a lot, but it knows its job once you give it its job. And it can be pretty comically, I don't want to say ruthless, but like it can ask you when it wants to know a question and wants to know the answer. Like it has an objective and it stays very loyal to that objective.
That was some very fun testing that we did of this, was trying to like say, hey, could you give me a recipe for brownies? And it's saying, I think we should focus on the appointment that we want to schedule today.
Exactly. We've had customers talk about like a few things actually that you mentioned, Charlie. Number one, sometimes they ask the questions that help to close deals that like it can take a little bit of extra training for a human to really get into the habit of asking, like, well, what cost would work for you? Right? Like that's been a really key one. And then last night I was testing out an agent and my cat like meowed. I was like trying to record something and my cat meowed and like it ruined the recording. And then I was like laughing and this agent was like that's really great. Now what is the address where the work needs to be done? And I was like, excuse me, I give me a minute. And it was like, okay, sure. Just let me know what the address is of the work that needs to be done. Like it wants to answer. It wants to get those questions answered. All right. Somebody did ask about like templates for recurring services, which I know that like that's a key use case because that's very similar to speed to lead, and that's for like especially generating business during off seasons and things like that. So do we have templates for that, Charlie?
Yeah. So I think that's gonna differ depending on what the service is, right? But I think that you'd be wanting to configure that in the greeting message area of saying it's your time for X whatever recurring service it is, and go from there. But I would say in this initial push, you can work with your AM on that.
Yep.
Probably help set that up in a way that works.
Great. All right, we got 1 more minute left. I want to remind you guys that the poll is live. So if you want to learn more about Outbound Voice AI and you're a Hatch customer, pick the first option. If you're not a Hatch customer, you can pick the second option. And we'll do one more question. Let's see here. a lot of people have been asking this. I think we kind of touched on it, but how do you make sure your number doesn't show up as spam?
Yeah, so I mentioned that in the presentation, that we have. It's called Shake and Stir attestation. It has nothing to do with James Bond, even though it sounds like it does a little bit. But there's all sorts of levers that we pull. We also automatically set you up with caller ID. Usually, caller ID only appears for landlines rather than for mobile phone numbers, but we do a lot of work to make sure that carriers are familiar with your Hatch phone number. The 10DLC registration process takes a while, but it's worth it because it makes sure that your phone number doesn't pop up as spam likely. And if you have an existing texting relationship with someone, your phone's less likely to mark it as spam likely because you've already been in text communications, those types of things. There are some things that are ultimately out of our control, but to the extent that you can pull all the levers to appear as your Hatch phone number and not spam likely, we've pulled all those levers. So that would be my answer there. I would also say that a good way to maintain, stay in carriers' good graces is to just follow best practices. So a lot of those are implemented within Hatch. We make you put all the opt-out language in your text messages. We make you do follow federal guidelines when it comes to outbound calls, et cetera, et cetera. But you also don't want to be cold calling tons of people who are going to be annoyed and mark your phone call as spam. So we'll get you as close as we can, but ultimately it's about following best practices, not using promotional texting language, staying around operational use cases. That's our bread and butter. And as long as you do that, I don't think you should run into any issues.
Great. So we have a ton more questions. What I think it might be worth doing is another webinar. We can probably just keep a list of these questions and address them all. But we're at time today. But we just want to thank everybody for coming out. I see all the enthusiasm about this feature. We are equally as excited. Charlie, thank you for all your work on this. Chris, thank you for all your work. Steven, thank you for all your work. We appreciate everybody for coming out. Reminder, we are going to send out the webinar recording. We will also send out the blog post, which will have a link to the recording, and you will see the email come through from me. So if you need to respond and ask any questions, we will get you taken care of. So thank you again, everybody, and we are excited to see you again soon.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.